Avoid smoking and alcohol. And get enough rest and sleep. If you have any flu symptoms, wear a mask and see your doctor.
Take action now!
The wipeout zone will not escape me!
They're smart, but I'm strong.
It's a race of picking the right door.
Victory is mine!
Sunday, Hotties vs. Nerds Wipeout at 8:35 on Pearl. When a man has nothing to fear, then he's the one.
Welcome to Woodbury.
To be feared.
Governor, they call you that?
Some nicknames stick whether you want them to or not.
The Walking Dead, Season 3, midnight, Monday to Thursday, starting next Thursday on Pearl.
With its fate sealed, the show must go on at ATV. Carnage in Kenya as Al-Shabaab gunmen storm a college. And another late night for negotiators on Iran nuclear deal. Good evening. A day after its license renewal application was rejected, the ATV board met today to discuss operational arrangements. The company says it will give details to staff after the Easter holiday. In the meantime, the government plans to reallocate the broadcaster's digital channels and hand over its analog channels to RTHK after ATV ceases operation next year. But as Diane To tells us, many other questions remain unanswered.
It's the final countdown. With at most a year left for ATV, staff went to work with a heavy heart today. I'm really sad, said this employee, who said he'll keep working until the company decides on further arrangements. An ATV News sports reporter who's been with the company for 15 years said he's very attached to particularly the news department, but that he understands it's time to face reality and leave. Executive Director Ip Ka Po said the company owns property on the mainland, as well as equipment and rights to thousands of hours of TV shows. He hopes the broadcaster would continue operating until the end. The government plans to reallocate ATV's 6 digital channels to interested parties after the station closes down. They can apply to the Communications Authority. As for its 2 analog channels, the government wants public broadcaster RTHK to take over them until analog television services are fully phased out in 2020.
We barely had time to talk to our colleagues at RTHK, but I'm sure that they always provide very good quality service. And I think they really have the best interest of the community in mind, and they will try the best to come up with an attractive program.
But lawmakers are questioning if that would work.
The government suddenly wants RTHK to fill in the gap, but RTHK in the past was not, properly invested in terms of, let's say, its people or its equipment, and definitely its production level. Right now, it barely could provide 8.5 hours of its own programming a day on one of its channels.
Meanwhile, Secretary for Labour and Welfare Matthew Cheung said the government has been in touch with ATV's management and workers' representatives to see what it can do to help. The Labour Department has set up 2 hotlines for ATV staff, and if necessary, it will arrange a seminar to explain their rights to them. Diane To, TVB News.
Several pro-establishment lawyers were in Beijing today to make their case for outlawing Hong Kong independence. Rani Samtani reports.
Barrister Lawrence Ma, who's also a member of the pro-establishment Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, said the Basic Law Committee chairman spoke highly of the idea of anti-Hong Kong independence legislation. Ma spoke to the media after meeting with committee members in Beijing. Also on hand was committee vice chairman Zhang Rongshan, who has been speaking out strongly against Hong Kong's pro-democracy opposition. Ma quoted the Beijing officials as saying they want to see if anti-independence legislation could be introduced under Article 18 of the Basic Law, and that if it goes against the Constitution, then Article 23 should be enacted. But he said details of the law as well as whether it would be constitutional were not discussed. Meanwhile, state media Xinhua published a commentary on the SAR's mini-constitution, marking the 25th anniversary since the Basic Law was promulgated. It said the Chinese constitution encompasses the laws of the country and likened the relationship between the Basic Law and the constitution to son and mother. The commentary said people have to recognize the basic facts to be able to respect the legal boundary between the central government's sovereignty and Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy. It also said people must respect the National People's Congress Standing Committee's framework set in August last year for Hong Kong's political reform in order to see the malicious intent of those trying to place two systems above one country. It said challenging, abandoning, or distorting the Basic Law will leave Hong Kong in chaos. The commentary also said the Occupy movement, violent anti-parallel trading protests, and those in favor of a civil referendum over political reform are shunning the Basic Law and damaging the rule of law. Ronnie Samtani, TVB News.
Hong Kong's high building density is creating a toxic soup of heat and pollution. That's according to researchers who say the city must improve its urban ventilation. Amid a growing concrete jungle which has spread across Hong Kong, locals have increasingly been left gasping for air. According to data gathered from 1965 to last year, obtained from the King's Park Urban Weather Station in Kowloon, average surface wind speeds have declined from 3.5 meters per second to 2 meters per second.
It has been dubbed the heat island effect, and it's particularly felt in areas such as this one at the heart of Hong Kong Island, with high building density and congested traffic.
Resorting to wind tunnel and water channel models, a group of researchers at the University of Hong Kong's Department of Mechanical Engineering demonstrated how heat and air pollution get trapped among the city's many high-rise buildings. Professor Li Yu-guo describes how wind in the city has dropped to a very low level, leaving urban areas without fresh air. To counter this trend, the scholar suggests wide and short secondary streets along the northern side of Hong Kong Island to allow wind to flow downhill. Citing HSBC's main building in Central as an example, he also says more buildings should have basal openings of around 10 meters. This, Lee added, would allow air to flow at surface level. Lawmakers have questioned a recent move by the government to set up a committee on reduction of salt and sugar in food. Some said a committee is not needed for this issue. Secretary for Food and Health Ko Wing-man explained that the purpose of the committee is to forge stronger ties between the food manufacturing industry and experts. He said, while it's up to individuals to decide whether to reduce salt and sugar consumption, manufacturers do play a role in the amount of ingredients put in their products. And Ko said the government is not considering legislation for the time being. 3 beauty treatment workers were sentenced today for using aggressive sales tactics to con a customer. Liz Yoon reports.
43-year-old manager Zhang Lai-yin and 34-year-old beauty consultant Wang Chen-chen were sentenced at Kowloon City Magistracy. They were each given 3-month jail terms. Another defendant, 25-year-old Chang Wai-yong, was ordered to serve 200 hours of community service. In a judgment, Magistrate Veronica Heung called this a serious case because the 3 defendants had worked together in coercing the customer to purchase their services. Chang Wai-yong played a minor role in the crime. But the other 2 defendants, Wang and Chang Lai-yin, took advantage of their influence to impair the client's judgment. The consumer might have paid even more money if she had a higher maximum limit for her credit card. Considering that both Wang and Zhang Lai-yin were willing to make a $70,000 compensation to the client, the magistrate reduced their sentences from the starting point of 4 months in jail. The magistrate said the fact that the pair have to serve 3 months in prison reflects the severity of the case. She warned the public not to stand such malicious behavior. The court heard that in November 2013, the then 47-year-old plaintiff had a treatment given by Zhang Wai-yong at a beauty parlor in Tsim Sha Tsui. She was persuaded into purchasing a treatment package worth $140,000 after Chang Lai-yin warned her of potential breast cancer.
She paid half of the sum and reported the case to the Consumer Council and the Customs and Excise Department on the next day. The Consumer Council welcomes the judgment, saying it sent an important message to the beauty industry.
In the past, probably they don't expect any offense, will bring them into jail. But seriously, if you offend, if you commit, offense of the trade description ordinance, there's a possibility, that you will put into jail, and also your goodwill, could completely, destroyed in a day.
Liz Yun, TVB News.
Turning overseas, Al-Shabaab gunmen attacked a university in northeast Kenya today, shooting indiscriminately in dormitories. At least 15 people were killed and more than 60 others were wounded. The Al-Qaeda-linked militant group has been holding Christian hostages for more than 11 hours. Alan Buckner reports.
The gunman had opened fire at campus police guarding the dorms, triggering a fierce shootout. Terrified students streamed out of buildings as arriving police officers hunkered down, taking cover.
Guys started jumping up and down, running for their lives. But it's unfortunate that where they were going to is where the gunshots were coming from. So this made the guys to, find some hideouts in the field. So when we went there, we went to the field, sat there, and the gunshot continued, and this made us to run to the fence so that we can get our way out from the school.
The attackers, claiming to be with the Al-Qaeda-linked militant group Al-Shabaab, say they have Christian hostages. Police and military personnel say they've cornered the gunmen in one of the 6 campus dorms. A statement said they were engaged in an elaborate process of flushing out the gunmen. Many of the wounded were in critical condition. Most have gunshot wounds. Authorities had warned the college of a possible attack, and on Tuesday, students were told they could go home. Kenya's northern and eastern regions, which are near the Somali border, have suffered many attacks blamed on Al-Shabaab. The group has vowed retribution on Kenya for sending troops into Somalia. Kenya sent its troops there in 2011 to fight Al-Shabaab following cross-border attacks. The group has since mounted numerous raids in Kenya. Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the deadly attack on a mall in Nairobi, Kenya's capital, in 2013. Police statistics show more than 300 people have been killed in Al-Shabaab-related violence since 2012. Alan Buckner, TVB News.
A Russian trawler with an international crew of 132 sank this morning, killing at least 56 people. The trawler went down in freezing waters in the Sea of Okhotsk off the Kamchatka Peninsula. The Russian Emergencies Ministry sent a helicopter with rescuers and doctors to the scene. 63 crew members were pulled to safety. Several others are still missing. Investigators said the ship sank in just 15 minutes and might have collided with drifting ice. Iran and 6 world powers have agreed on the outlines of an understanding that would open the path to a final phase of nuclear negotiations, but are in a dispute over how much to make public. Sources say a news conference to announce the results of the talks is expected later in the day in Switzerland. James Aiken has more.
As the sun rose on iconic Lake Geneva, bleary-eyed negotiators for major world powers and Iran were still talking, 2 days past their deadline for a deal. With the future of Iran's nuclear program hanging in the balance, the extended sessions are meant to reach a framework on what Tehran must do in order to get punishing sanctions lifted.
There are obviously problems that have prevented us from reaching the first stage, finding the solutions. And I certainly hope that our colleagues will recognize the fact that this is a unique opportunity that will not be repeated, and they need to take advantage of this opportunity.
The talks are hung up over crucial details of the accord, even as the broad outlines of an agreement have been reached. Some countries are worried that Iran is seeking a deal that does not outline detailed obligations and therefore make compliance easier to evade.
More specifically, the Iranians want all 6 UN Security Council resolutions to be terminated. And then on research and development, Iran would like to increase the amount of research and development that it carries out on different technical aspects of its nuclear program,